Police Department.
Hello, and welcome to the Lake County School Board meeting for Monday, February 24th. If you all would all please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you again for everyone who's joined us. Do we have any changes, amendments, additions, or deletions to the agenda? Superintendent? No? Okay, seeing none, we are ready to move on to approval of the minutes.
Recommend approval of the minutes from the school board workshop February 3rd, 2020, and the regular school board meeting February 10th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving to representation. We have special recognition of the Transportation Department personnel with Mr. John Carr. Come on up.
Thank you, and with that, I would like to introduce Scott Fender, the Director of Transportation, who will be presenting special awards for accommodations you will hear shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Fender.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to recognize two of our transportation staff this evening. I'd like at this time to ask Mr. Robert Williams and Ms. Tracy Robondo to please come forward. Mr. Williams has been a regular bus driver with the district since November of 2000. Ms. Robondo has been a bus monitor working with our ESE students since September of 2003. And as you may recall, on January 21st of this year, we had a student who was a victim of a hit and run while waiting for the school bus. And that student rode Mr. Williams and Ms. Robondo's bus. And the incident occurred just prior to the bus arriving at the stop. In fact, the vehicle was leaving the scene as the bus was arriving, and they found the student lying on the road. Ms. Robondo immediately got off the bus to offer aid and comfort to the student. Mr. Williams called the incident to a supervisor who contacted 911 and relayed the information regarding the student's condition, as well as a detailed description of the vehicle and the driver of the vehicle. The Sheriff's Department Facebook page actually said that the detailed description of both the driver and the vehicle was very helpful in aiding with the capture of those involved. Ms. Tracy stayed with the student until law enforcement arrived and then returned to the bus. During this time, Mr. Robert was trying to contact the student's mother and was unable to, but when Tracy came back to the bus, Robert actually left the bus and walked to the home to notify the mother.
Wow.
I didn't even realize, the morning that this happened, I'm going to go off script a little bit, but the morning that this happened, we get so many calls like that. You don't think anything about it. There was a student hit, and I mean, you think about it, but we really didn't hear anything else about it. And a few days later, Tracy called me about something else, and we started talking, and it was kind of then that I really realized the gravity of the situation and how it affected both Robert and Tracy. And I watched the video. It was like an hour ordeal from beginning to end, from the time that they arrived on the scene until the student was life flighted away. And you could clearly see that they were very distraught by this. It was their student. But what was amazing is they remained very calm and professional throughout the entire incident. They engaged their students that were on the bus, because there were students on the bus that were passengers. They kept them very calm. They gave detailed information to law enforcement when asked. They were professional, and they represented our department and our district in a manner that should make us all very proud. So if you ask them, they'd probably tell you they didn't do anything special, but I disagree, they did. So at this time, I would like to present each of them with a certificate and a commemorative coin in recognition. I'm going to try to read this coin, but it's really small writing, glasses. But it says, "For exceptional actions above and beyond the call in service to our students and our schools. Thank you.
Well done.
This time.
If I may.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yes,
I was like,
if you would, please come up so we could meet you.
And this is Tracy. Thank you very much.
It's an honor to shake your hand. Thank you.
Great job. I appreciate it.
It's an honor to shake your hand. Thank you.
Ms. Luke, would you like to say anything?
I don't know if I can.
Okay.
So I will tell you guys that as a mom, Mrs. Cronin actually shared with me, Ms. Rabondo held the child. I could only imagine if something like that were to happen to my own children, that those are the kind of people that I would want there to take care of them. So thank you both.
Thank you both for everything you do every day and on tragedies as well. So thank you. We have a proclamation by Governor DeSantis. Dr. Weiskopf?
Good evening. I know. Governor DeSantis has declared February as CTE month, and so I wanted to have the opportunity to read the proclamation that he set forth a couple weeks ago. Whereas Florida has a bold vision for a brighter future, and it is essential our children are provided with a strong foundation and a world-class education. And whereas the Florida Department of Education is committed to providing the highest standard of education in the nation, and whereas career and technical education contributes to America's leadership in the international marketplace and offers individuals lifelong opportunities to learn new skills, expanding career choices and career satisfaction. And whereas in 2019, I issued Executive Order 1931, beginning the process to make Florida the #1 state in the nation for workforce education by 2030, ensuring Florida students are prepared to fill the high-demand, high-wage jobs of today and the future. And whereas expanding career opportunities for our students and increasing Florida's investment in career and technical training programs and apprenticeships is paramount to the successes of our state. And whereas the Florida Pathways to Career Opportunities Grants Program provides grants to 36 institutions to create or expand apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeship programs. And whereas Florida students have earned over 130,000 industry certifications and more than 61,000 digital tool certifications. And whereas Career and Technical Education Month in Florida is an opportunity to educate Floridians about the career opportunities available and ensure all students are able to acquire the knowledge and learn the skills needed to provide for their families. Now, therefore, I, Ron DeSantis, Governor of the State of Florida, do hereby extend greetings and best wishes to all observing February 2020 as Career and Technical Education Month in Florida. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Weiskopf. And we are moving into our spotlight with Leesburg High School.
Lake County School District is a place where our students are always learning and growing into the leaders of tomorrow.
The faculty and staff at Leesburg High School has been implementing mentoring as a strategy to support leadership and academic success in their students of color. They now have the 2 Steps in Common mentoring initiative for young men of color and the Delta Gems mentoring program for young women of color.
For us, mentoring is such a critical aspect because
It's talking about building relationships. When we started our 2 Steps in Common and our Delta Gyms, I asked for one thing and one thing only from our mentees, and that was to be present every month and be consistent. It was the consistency that I think has brought the success to our program. We specifically wanted to target our students of color. So from there, we kind of looked at some of our data and noticed that, our dropout rates and our dropout rates, our attendance rates, and our grades were really struggling with our students of color. We wanted to provide them with an opportunity and an outlet to share their voice, to share their concerns, and to grow together as well.
Mentorship is very important. I understood that early on that we don't all have the keys to success. We don't all know exactly what to do to be successful, and that's why we have to seek mentorship. I feel as though for the youngsters nowadays, they're very technological savvy and they feel like they can learn everything online, but that relationship piece and the things that you get from having a mentor and relating with that mentor and meeting with that mentor on a consistent basis is undeniable. You have to have those relationships in order to grow.
We started the initiative of our 2 mentoring programs during last school year. Our Delta Gyms has been meeting with our young ladies for a little while, and then last year in January, we started our 2 Steps in Common.
They're inspirational ladies who could teach me a lot about life that I don't know already, and they're like a sisterhood that I can have forever. The knowledge that they put on us, I know I can take that to college with me or wherever I go, and always know that I have somebody to rely on.
Senior Jada Bedford is also excited Dr. Griffin Gay selected her to participate in the Delta Gyms program.
I think she selected me because she wants us to grow, she wants me to grow, and she wants me to become something in life. I want to thank the program. I want to thank everybody that's a part of this program for just giving me good inspirational things and tips to learn and grow in my future.
The desire to give back to the community is my motivation. The girls are receptive. They want to learn. They do not want to be lacking in these basic areas. They want us to come in and teach them the things that they need to know to be successful. So that is our role as members of this organization, to give back to the community and make a difference in the lives of these girls.
My hope and my goal for our young ladies, a part of the GYMS program, is that they will embrace mentorship, and then one day, once they are older, give back and mentor other young ladies as well that they encounter.
The 2 Steps in Common mentoring program is designed for young men of color to meet monthly with mentors to discuss their academic success and any other questions and concerns they may have as they advance in their education and become closer to adulthood.
My favorite part about mentoring is meeting the students and being able to find common ground and just looking at them and knowing that I was in that same position when I was that age. So I look at them and I see myself. I think to myself, that's exactly who I was when I was at their age, and to see how I was able to grow from that point, I know they have the ability to do so too. So I just want to be a part of that.
Just as being a young man in this world, is teaching me a lot of things I should know, get prepared for it, and just teach me to be a great person in my society.
Help me lead forward and talk and just becoming a better person and being positive and just getting information that can help me do what I want to do to create a good future.
Leesburg High School faculty says they intend to continue these mentoring programs with all the support from their community. Their hope is not only that these students will go on to be successful, but that they will eventually mentor someone else in the future. Lake County Schools is committed to providing students with individual opportunities to excel. Stay tuned as we continue shining a light on what makes Lake great.
Thank you so much, Ms. Owens. And I wanted to recognize Michael Randolph, the principal of Leesburg High, and Dr. Griffin Gray, the vice principal of Leesburg High. We really appreciate, obviously you saw a need And mentoring children is such a gift to those kids, and I can't wait till we see the fruits of your labor in years when you have alumni coming back to mentor for you. So that's fabulous. And as I'm looking over, I also want to recognize Mayor Pat Kelly from Mineola. So thank you for joining us. He's looking a little embarrassed. So we are at the public input point of the meeting. So we will do 3 minutes for anyone who has filled out a public input card. So that's all you have to do is fill out a public input card and you get 3 minutes. So first we have Kim Cronin.
Good evening, board members, superintendent. So tonight you are going to be approving contract for your non-instructional employees. I want you to know that they weren't jumping for joy. Normally we get maybe about 10 no's, if that, and this time we had 91 no's. I also just want, I know legislation is still in session, but when it comes to budget time, we need to make sure that we look at putting money away for raises. Some of the employees said, well, can't they just give us 10 cents so we get it next year too? I mean, people are looking for a cost of living raise. They're looking for something. We all have bills to pay, and we can't just put them to the side if we don't have money to pay the bills. So I'm hoping that this next coming year that we look at the budget, we look at departments and where we have to make cuts to make sure we have money for our raises. Thank you. Also, I want to thank you for recognizing that bus driver and monitor because they went over and above. They did. A lot of drivers and monitors do that every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Next is Stuart Clapp.
Good evening, school board, superintendent. This week, I had an epiphany during bargaining, and as we presented data during bargaining on teachers, and it was, I realized it skewed data in that I can only have access to my membership of about 60% of our teachers. So it's not necessarily accurate data that we're able to present. So we need to be able to have access to all Lake County teachers so that we can develop bargaining strategy, bargaining issues, and contact them on a variety of issues and get anonymous, accurate results. Now, just a few observations. I noticed at one point, and it's kind of sad that as I watched the public broadcasts of school board meetings, that some of them have a disclaimer about language and content not being appropriate. And now, some of the language and content would never be appropriate in a classroom. But the fact that we have to have a disclaimer is kind of sad. When I speak during public input, I'm speaking on behalf of LCEA and all of our members. This week I've had to deal with several school board policies on an intimate basis. One is School Board Policy 6.36, which is that any complaint against a teacher or staff has to be in writing and signed by the person making the complaint. The other one is the Civility Policy 3.43, the policy that promotes civility, respect, and orderly conduct among employees, parents, and the public. Now, these policies are not always followed, or they're not always enforced, but they do provide a backup for the teacher as they deal with different situations, and they're good policies, and we're glad that they're there. For example, I once had a principal who would routinely raise his voice during meetings. And if the teacher raised their voice to the same volume, suddenly they were being written up for insubordination. And finally, This is National Public Schools Week. I'm surprised we didn't get something from the governor, a proclamation on that. 9 out of every 10 students in America go to a public school. And this is a week where we get to shine, to show our successes in public school and focus on critical issues that public schools face. And with that, I guess my time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stuart. The next is Mr. Tibbetts.
Superintendent Cornegay, board members, just a few quick things for you tonight regarding your agenda. The first one is 806. Oil and mineral rights, 5th revision. I think the board needs to hire attorneys that can get something done that doesn't have to be done 5 times. You could do the research to get you back to the Magna Carta in the time that this is dragged out. So I would just simply say it's time to tell the attorneys get their jobs done. Secondly, regarding 903 and the tentative agreement that you're going to sign tonight with the service employees, it's about time. I think collectively the board has got to figure out a way not to drag on agreements for your employees any more than you would want them dragged on for you. Finally, 11.02. This is very interesting, where you have 2 employees, really. The superintendent, who gets evaluated, and your auditor. Let me read some of the comments that were on Mr. Mock's evaluation. I would like to see more dialogue with school district staff, and an appropriate management response is included in each audit. The auditor's job is to tell you what needs to be fixed. It's not his job to fix it. Nor is it his job to say, are you fixing it? The person you need to talk to is sitting down here, not your auditor. The continued learning curve required by our internal auditor to be effective requires the district staff to be available to educate the auditor. Whose fault is that? The auditors or the district staff? It seems that the current structure of a single school board member serving on the audit committee makes it challenging for the auditor to communicate with the board members. Duh! Why don't you appoint more of you to the committee? Then it would be easier. But get the drift here. Each one of these is a criticism of your auditor. I think you've done him a disservice. And I'm going to quickly say it remains concerned that a measurable outcome to a past audit is presented to the board. And finally, ineffective management, outsourcing auditors for tasks that he is not knowledgeable on. Whose job? Is that his? Or is that management to provide outside auditors? Your expectations might change if you met with your auditor weekly like you meet with the superintendent. These things might not be appearing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tibbetts. What was the second item he referenced?
903.
Leesburg. There was Leesburg. There was the Leesburg Ag Farm.
And then there was 903, which is the SEIU contract,
903, that was the one I meant.
and 1102 was the auditor evaluation.
Okay. That's a notification. Do we want to pull 8.08 for any discussion?
I'll wait too.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Tibbetts. Where's my agenda? Mr. Johnson, do we have an attorney report?
No, ma'am.
All right. Superintendent.
I recommend approval of consent agenda items 8.01 to 10.14.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, 11.01, discussion. Superintendent's recommendation.
As you know, we spent Thursday together going through all of the options, and great presentation by Ms. Kelly Randall. And so she's here to answer, I think, any questions that y'all might have after my recommendation. So she's here should you need anything. I'm going to go ahead and make my recommendation, and then if you have any questions, Kelly's here to respond. And I am recommending, based on our presentation on Thursday, in my review of the options in regards to the South Lake Elementary and Middle School boundary changes, that we move forward with public input on option 6A.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to throw
Hold
out.
a second.
I did call.
Can we second for discussion? Are we okay with that? Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's what we did. Okay. I just wanted to clarify out there for folks that, because I've received some emails and more messages this week thinking that this is the actual vote, and I said, no, we're just going to vote on the superintendent's recommendation of which plans we put out there at our public forum, so that people will still have these open house opportunities to come give us feedback on this plan that we're putting out there, this option, and then with that, we will gather that feedback and then ultimately make a final decision that this is not the decision on rezoning. So just throwing that out there for clarification for folks.
Yeah, I also wanted to throw out, I've gotten multiple emails about option 1, and that was, you don't have to watch the whole video, but option 1 of our workshop on Thursday, but option 1 was the very first iteration, and then we moved on to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now 6A. So when we don't worry about option 1 anymore is basically what I'm saying. I don't need any more emails. You're good. Anyone else?
And I'd like to comment about 6A, because 6A, it is a very small, insignificant change. It didn't change anything in the South. What it did allow, with the support of the mayor, who brought it to our attention after the workshop, is it did capture what will soon be the hills of Mineola, and put them in Mineola Elementary Charter. And that I want to thank Sherry Watts for agreeing for that change. So this has been very collaborative. And again, Mayor, thank you for coming and even bringing it to our attention. So that's the only difference. So for those that didn't have a chance to see 6A, because we only talk about 1 through 6. Right. So there we go.
And we can continue to change it in the future, right? There can be a 6B, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Hopefully not, but yes.
Well, if another mayor comes along with a really good idea, it's possible.
He
hopes he doesn't have to change anytime soon.
Right.
That's right.
Oh, I didn't mean another Mineola mayor. I meant I don't know, Groveland's mayor or.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. If you're not at the party, you don't get to talk.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So
I'd just like to say real quick, we appreciate you being at that workshop and putting your input in, because it's very important that we do have all that's involved with this to have some kind of say at the table, and we appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, because and I've told people who have emailed me or called me, I don't know the neighborhoods to the detail that people in the South End know. There's no way. So your input is really important to me. It's definitely helping inform my choices.
Thanks.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay, moving to the annual evaluation for the Director of Internal Audit. Mr. Johnson.
Madam Chairman, we put together, I think it was discussed a little bit earlier, but
We put together the annual evaluation for Mr. Mock and his job. It mirrors pretty much the same procedure and information that we provided regarding the superintendent's evaluation. The first document is the actual evaluation, blank evaluation form. Then all the scores were placed into the matrix that has each average of individual performance areas, and then the total average at the end, 3.94. Then we took all of the individual comments that were made under each performance area and put them all onto one sheet for your ease of review. If the evaluation is all right with you, then we would ask that you move to accept the evaluation, and it will be filed in Mr. Mock's personnel records.
I move to accept the evaluation.
I'll second.
You have a first and a second. Any discussion?
I guess just the one thing I'd like to throw out there is I'm not sure what really lent itself to the circumstances that allowed us to evaluate such a long period of time. But if we could really move back to a more regular cycle, I think that would be helpful.
I think we've already had a discussion with the superintendent about bringing perhaps a revision to the policy to have the dates a little more closely mirror what actually happens during the course of the year. We had kind of the same problem to a smaller extent with the superintendent's evaluation, where things come up in the course of the year when the new board starts in November, makes the timeline sometime kind of meaningless in how they're listed on the policy. But we're getting all the policies changed anyway, so we'll see what happens.
Someday.
That's a great thing.
Well done.
Good point.
Okay, the only other comment I wanted to make was I think I had a pretty favorable report, but I've worked a lot. When I started, I worked a lot with my own financial, advisor person through who was my appointee to the accountants board, and she was a teacher who actually taught accounting at UCF. And the one thing she said over and over and over was something Mr. Tibbetts echoed, was that there's one person. He's just one. He's like a one-man band. And so he has to do the auditing. He has to physically go and do all the inventorying. Like usually Orlando has or at least UCF has 20, 40 people in their accounting department. We have one person. So I don't think we're in a position to hire more people. I'm not suggesting that, but I am suggesting that I think he needs to be commended for managing all the work with just one auditor, which is pretty out of the ordinary. So thank you, Mr. Mock. All right. And so we motioned in second? Okay. We didn't vote. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you. Or none opposed. Superintendent?
All right, well, speaking of policy changes, I think you all received some information from Ms. Challenger in regards to the NEOL policies, which are done.
Praise Jesus.
I know, it's been a long time
It's been
coming.
a long haul.
It has consumed, these folks, they can tell you more than anyone, painstakingly going through word by word every single policy. It has taken a lot of time because in the meantime, they're also running, improving teaching and learning for our kids and transporting our kids and all the things that these folks do. So we are done. You have an opportunity to review them. We're asking you to bring to the workshop on March the 2nd or any that you have questions, concerns about, because there are a lot of them as you go through that. So hopefully you'll find that you've got enough time now before March the 2nd to be able to review those policies. And hopefully in the near future, we will bring to some conclusion this policy process and be done for now. Of course, every legislative session will continue to be revised, but at least we're getting rid of policies that date back to 2003 and beyond. So they should all be up to date. And I want to remind everyone that Saturday, February 29th, that's this Saturday, to come to the Lake County History Fair. It's at Leesburg High School. The theme this year is Breaking Barriers in History, and the students' projects will be on display from 1:30 to 2 p.m. And then there's an awards ceremony beginning at 2:15 there at Leesburg High School. And also remind everyone that you have one more week to enter your nominations for the Alumni Hall of Fame, and this is your chance to help us showcase graduates from our schools who have excelled in their profession in sports or as humanitarians. So if you'll go to the link, it's the application, it's on our website. And I have a few letters, of condolence. One is, Mr. Gamble, our condolences to you and your family, the loss of your cousin. We know that was very sudden and tragic for you all. And also Jerry Miller, who's been a good friend to the district with Duke Energy, passed away, and we want to recognize him. He was also a good partner and friend with the Education Foundation, so our condolences go to his family as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Ms. Luke?
I have a question in regards to the recommendation that we do the safety drills once a month. I know that came down recently. Do we have an opportunity to give input back into that?
We have, yes, and I know that, I'm not sure where the bill is currently. There were some revisions to the school safety bill. I've not seen the changes in regards to reducing the number of drills, but it is currently in statute that they must be done as often as fire drills, which is monthly. So we'll see if any of the recommendations end up in that bill that's currently moving through the House and Senate, but we haven't seen any of those changes made yet.
I would be interested in tracking that. So if we can revisit that conversation, I'll tell you, we really haven't talked much about it. And I checked Jace out today, it's just for you guys, his information where this came from. And when he got in the car, he said, "I'm really glad you came and got me." And I said, "Yeah, why is that? You looking forward to hanging out with Mama?" And he said, "No, we were having an active shooter drill today, and I'm scared." And so we talk about it at home, and I know the teachers are doing everything they can possibly do, but for him to say, "Thank you for coming to pick me up," like to voice that, because he didn't want to be a part of that. And then he proceeded to tell me how they were either going to run or they were going to barricade the door, and it hurts my heart. And I understand I'm not being closed off to the fact that that's the world that we live in today, but once a month is pretty prevalent and pretty scary for a 6-year-old.
I absolutely agree.
So if we could even just put together a letter or something, and I know sessions happening right now, I'd be happy to do something like that currently, if we can get it adjusted, but then to revisit and maybe make some suggestions or collaborate with our Central Florida School Board Coalition, if we can get some feedback from teachers to maybe see what that would look like. I'm okay with reasonable, but it just bothered me a little bit. I also wanted to congratulate, we had a lot of our students participate in solo and ensemble I think it was 2 weekends ago. Our middle school and high school students that do that, they play a solo or a trio or duets and so forth. And that was at Tavares High School. So we thank them for sponsoring and all the judges that come out to hear our students, and the Jazz MPA. So they, you guys are probably aware of that, but our jazz students got to perform at their event. And I know that our symphonic and concert band events are coming up. So we just are really proud of those students and amazed at the work that they do. And good luck on Saturday. I didn't realize it was a Leesburg High School, so that'll be an adjustment, but I'm excited about History Day. If you guys have never been to History Day is like the science fair on steroids, right? Like those projects, those exhibits are like mind numbing. They're amazing projects. So if you are available, it is something to see. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble, or Ms. Luke, Mr. Gamble.
I get it mixed up too.
Well, I've been called Miss Sandy and all that too, so, I just got a couple things. First of all, when we get emails with things that are on the agenda that people make comments on and they expect us to reply back to them, there's reasons we can't do it because of Sunshine Law. So it's not that we're ignoring you. It's just that our attorney advises us that when they send a group text or a group email that we do not answer that. It's one thing to talk to them individually. Off the email would be best, but we're not ignoring you. It's just that it's not policy for us to do it that way, or proper, I should say. So, but we, as Dr. Burns spoke to option 1, we had quite a few people email about option 1. Do not do option 1. It's not good. It's this. And I think they were expecting a reply, and we didn't. I will say that I received an email from an individual that kind of concerned me here recently, blaming the school board for taking funding away for substitute teaching. As far as my knowledge, we haven't done anything in the budget to do something of that nature there. And so I did reply to that individual as an individual, and explained to her, I don't know where she got her information from, but that's not accurate. And so, but there was also some other comments that she had in there as well, and I spoke to those. But I told her I would like to really speak to her one-on-one. And when we speak, I would like for you to understand that this Sandy Gamble is a guy. So you're not caught off guard when they say Sandy Gamble's here and you're expecting a female, because I'm not going to be dressed in a dress. So
You did once.
All right. I don't remember it, but But anyway, it's just things like that. Somebody is giving out some bad information or or not getting the information correctly. Let me put it that way. But whenever you send emails like that, and then you also send it, and the person that you're sending it to is not what you think he is or she is. So, also, I'd just like to say, along with what Stephanie brought out about the bands and things, Triangle Elementary Steel Band went to a state contest and performed about a month ago now. And from what I understand, that the band director at the university, or the person that was there judging, said the only one that was a better quality band than what they produced there that day was the band out of the University of Florida.
Wow.
We're talking about elementary kids that outperformed that day better than a lot of other kids older than them. So we have some outstanding talent in our district. And I made a comment to the superintendent when we were there for, I believe, the Teacher of the Year, that trying to get that band to come and do it out there and do a performance for us while we're getting ready for the board meeting. People coming in, they could sit out there, and I can tell you it will be very loud, Dr. Tibbetts. You won't need any hearing because it will echo big. But they are a fantastic little band over there, so my hat's off to them. That's all I have.
I wanted to congratulate Mr. Gamble on his first win, his first home game, and his first win over the Villages on Thursday night. Unitop High School won over innings, right? Wasn't it
Extra
eighth
innings.
Extra innings. You knew what I meant. Sorry. Thank you for letting me stretch.
Well, thank you. I wanted to hear that.
Over innings. Don't roll.
Over innings.
Mr. Dodd, you're up.
Yeah. So, okay, I just want to clarify, because I've been responding to these people, but I've just been replying versus reply all. There's no problem in that, right? Okay, there we go. So last time I think we met in this room, we saw a district spotlight video on the Lake Success Academy. Well, selfishly, instead of the open house, I wanted to go out and get this private tour where I could talk to the students, and so I did. And my goodness, some of the stories that they had to share, it was one of the most moving experiences I've had in a very long time, because some of these kids, when you hear their backstory, it's not necessarily about just making one bad decision one day. But some of these stories are coupled with just a lifetime of lack of support at home or troubled times that they've come from, and you can almost start to understand what has caused them to get to where they are today. And so as I listened to some of these stories, I couldn't help but think that this truly is something that is changing lives. So it was probably one of the most uplifting experiences, like I said, I've had in a very long time. And I'm just so proud to be able to say that this is something our district is doing, and I'm proud to say that our voters supported it. And so it's remarkable. So thanks for doing that.
So I had the opportunity this weekend to have a young couple come by the house, and initially the call came to me because they were thinking about running for school board. And I had seen on Facebook where he was recently married. So I said, why don't you bring your wife over so that he would have the opportunity, as each of you, we have to deal both with our service here and also then the potential neglect to our families for this service. So they came over, and as we were speaking about service, and I listened to Mindy, my wife, who truly gets that I'm passionate about this. Then I also then moved on to my thoughts that Facebook, it has a double-edged sword. It can be used for good, and it can be used for bad. And many times the good news of the district doesn't get out. And I don't know if you guys do it, but I troll to see if my name's mentioned, then I zero in. And there's a page called Claremont Greater Rants and Raves, and it's the administrator is Juanita Dela Cruz. And in that post, they were speaking about kids that aren't going to graduate and the cost to get a GED. Now, I have to tell you that I've never thought about that there's a cost for kids when they drop out, about $138, plus there's for the test. And that test is administered by an outside party, so there's no opportunity for any kind of forgiveness from that. And it's managed by our Lake Tech. So I spoke to the superintendent, I spoke to Diane Culpepper, I spoke to Carmen Cullen, and I'm really proud to announce I received it yesterday, and because of the support I get from my wife, the Mindy Bailey Mathias Scholarship was formed that will pay for those kids to get their GED. So. And as I heard Mindy articulating to this young bride, and as they left completely convinced that they will not seek public service, I'm very proud. I'm very proud of her. Thank you.
You should be very proud of that. That's really something. Thank you so much. So, I did want to mention, Mrs. Owens has started Wellness Wednesdays, and I think I noticed it. I just sent her, and I love this back. So keep an eye out, teachers, that she's going to be highlighting some of the wellness features that are already in your insurance plan, things that might help with stress or things that might help with your diet or just healthy living ideas. So, and we do have resources through your insurance that you are paying for, so go for it. So, for any of our employees, I would encourage you to do that. And that's really all I have right now. So, yes, Mr. Gamble.
There was one thing I did forget is this coming Friday, the honor course will be at Leesburg High School as well. And it will have elementary students as well as high school students across Lake and Sumter counties there. And I had planned on being there, but because, as Mrs. Luke, alleged to, I have another obligation to be at Friday night already. So, but if anyone can go, it would be really great for you to be there. So.
I just saw today.
Oh, I forgot also that I did a chili cook-off judging Saturday, and
that's fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Who won?
I don't know. I didn't stay.
Okay. All right. Well,
I went home and took some antacid.
I think it's time for dinner. We will be adjourned.